Hey, it's John Pollock, and this is Fight News Now, the MMA edition. Hello, fight fans, and welcome to another edition of Fight News Now. I'm your host, John Pollock, and what a loaded show we have for you today. Exclusive interviews with UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones, as well as TriStar head coach Firas Zahabi. You'll also hear from Johnny Hendricks and Damian Maia. John Ramdian and Robin Black are ready for 3 rounds, another installment of The Shift, and we start off with this week's newsmakers. This Saturday night is the TUF 18 finale, and it will be headlined by a 2010 lightweight rematch between Maynard and Nate Diaz, who also fought on Season 5 of The Ultimate Fighter. Since Maynard's split decision victory 4 years ago over Diaz, both have challenged for the lightweight gold unsuccessfully, as each looks to keep afloat in the always deep lightweight waters.
Maynard has had a rough run over the last 3 years. After starting his career with 10 straight wins, he has gone just 1-2-1 since he beat Kenny Florian at UFC 118. After coming so close to grasping the lightweight title in the first round against Frankie Edgar at UFC 125 and 136, only to come away with a majority draw, a TKO loss, and an empty spot on his mantle, another title shot for the bully would be a long time coming. In his next matchup, he would face off against Clay Guida in a fight that saw Maynard chase the Greg Jackson student for 5 rounds.
Flailed there with the uppercut and the hook, and sick at chasing Guida.
He would secure the split decision win, but boring main events don't do much for a fighter's career. After an 11-month layoff, the former title challenger would get another shot at becoming the #1 contender against TJ Grant.
Gray's a warrior, expected a hell of a fight. He hit me with some good shots, but hey, let's do it.
Now he returns against Nate Diaz to complete their trilogy. Diaz comes into this one following a loss to Benson Henderson in a title fight at UFC on Fox 5, and a beating from Josh Thompson that ended with a vicious head kick knockout. Despite the losses, the Cesar Gracie black belt has the skills and physical gifts to give Maynard major problems, as we've seen in their previous 2 encounters. Because Maynard has the superior wrestling skills, he will likely choose where the fight takes place. On the feet, Diaz will counter Maynard's power with his superior reach and pace, and if the fight goes to the ground, his jiu-jitsu skills are more than up to par.
He's gonna tap, he's gonna tap. It's all over! It's all over! Nate Diaz!
On Saturday night, we'll see the culmination of a trilogy going all the way back to The Ultimate Fighter 5. Will Maynard get his 2nd straight over the Stockton native, or will Diaz finally put an official loss on the bully's record?
We have now had over a week to go back and analyze the controversial George St-Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks fight from UFC 167. The man that came out on the wrong end of the split decision, Johnny Hendricks, has also rewatched the fight, and he shares with us his thoughts on one of the most debated decisions of 2013.
Do I think I won the fight? Yes. Do everybody else that watched it pretty much, I'd say about 80-90%, yes. I've been in situations probably worse than he has, all right? And you don't complain. You suck it up and you just move forward. If you can't handle the stress of being champion, give it up. You know what I mean? I won the fight. I knew I was going to have to beat GSP twice, and that's the way that I'm looking at it. I beat him once. Let's do it again. I don't care where. Win. I want to beat him, and this time it'll actually be new welterweight champion.
With the status of champion St-Pierre still in the air, other welterweights are jockeying for position with an incredibly deep division of talent. One man that was riding a wave of momentum was Damian Maia before his loss in October to Jake Shields. Maia commented on the stacked welterweight class and its champion.
That's the business, everybody knows how the business is, and George is a big income for the UFC, so of course, if you're the president of a company, he wanted George to keep fighting. But I give all my respect to George. He's great. He has nothing to prove. But at the same time, of course, then I want to keep him fighting because he's very important for the organization. I think they should have an interim title. Like you said, it's the most competitive division right now. I think. There's so many guys that can be a champion. You never know. So I hope I will have the chance.
UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones was in Toronto this past weekend, and our own Robin Black sat down with the 26-year-old to get his take on the recent UFC 167 main event and how President Dana White handled the post-fight press conference, along with his criticisms of both the judging and champion St-Pierre.
I've been on the receiving end several times from the UFC as far as, you know, having that happen with negative backlash and stuff like that. What I do is I just try to protect myself, protect my brand, and do what's right for me and my family at all costs. I really don't think George owes anyone anything. I think he was given a fair opportunity, the same opportunity everyone else had, who's been a part of the UFC, and George has taken this opportunity and run with it. And he's made a lot of money from the UFC, and I'm sure the UFC's made a ton of money off of him. So yeah, I don't really think he owes anyone anything. And the most important thing as an athlete is just to take care of yourself, your brand, and your family, and your body.
At the same expo, Jones took part in a Q&A and stated he will definitely be making the move to heavyweight permanently in the future. He also stated he is seeking a super fight with heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez as quickly as within the next year. Meanwhile, TriStar head coach Firas Zahabi was also in Toronto this weekend, and John Ramdeen caught up with Zahabi, who broke down the co-feature at UFC 167, where TriStar's Rory MacDonald suffered a split decision loss to ruthless Robbie Lawler and gave MacDonald his first loss since 2010.
I think it's tough for these fighters, you know. They're being told they're going to win when they have to fight these lions, you know. Robbie Lawler has been around the block. He's improving. He's finding his style. You know, he's doing so many great things. Rory lost a tough fight, and that's the way it is. I don't like to count my eggs before they hatch. I tell my guys, I think Rory's going to be great. I think he's going to be world champion. But I don't think it's going to happen in an instant. He needs time to grow. He needs to be seasoned. Go back to my interviews. I always said the same thing. The kid's great. He's going to be great, but he still needs seasoning. He still needs time. Robbie Lawler had more experience, found a good way to outdo Rory, squeezed out his victory, and he bested us that night.
What are the subtleties or the differences that you believe that allowed Robbie to walk away with the title?
I think Rory was really in a low stance, and he was getting his leg kicked. That's exactly what he did to Nate Diaz. And you see Robbie Lawler, when he went back in the corner after round, he's like, hey, I stole that kick from him. I like that kick. And it works really well when the guy's crouched low in a boxing stance. I was begging Rory, get up out of your stance. Get back into a Muay Thai stance. He waited too long. He got outpointed round one. He lost the fight in round one. He didn't lose it in round three. People say, oh, he got hit hard. He got hit hard because he had to take a chance. If he didn't let round one go, he could have put more pressure more steadily. At the end of the round three, he really went all out, and he showed he could take him down repeatedly. He showed he could dominate him. He waited too long, but I think he had to do that gamble in round three because he let round one slide.
Just days after his 37th birthday this past June, mixed martial arts legend Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira didn't get the present he was hoping for. Instead, he was forced to verbally submit to Fabricio Verdum, but Nogueira is not eyeing a close to his career. Instead, Nogueira is gearing up for 2014 and is eyeing a fight with Roy Nelson, who is coming off back-to-back losses this year. Another call-out that began earlier this year was by Tim Kennedy to Michael Bisping. The two have used Twitter as their promotional vehicle for this hypothetical fight, with Bisping firing the latest blow towards Kennedy using the dreaded A word. From Michael to count Bisping, we go to a man that was all but counted out this past Saturday going into Glory 12, that being Andy Risky, who pulled off the upset going through Giorgio Petrosian and Robin van Roosmalen in one night to win the lightweight tournament, and we take a look at the highlight reel he put together in New York City Saturday night.
Risky Petrosian!
The bell in the final round, and Risky immediately on the attack. Right hand, but Risky drops Petrosian with the left. Mamma mia! Andy the Machine Risky has done it! He has stopped Giorgio the Dr. Petrosian!
Risky Van Roosmalen!
And Risky knocks down Van Roosmalen with the right. And a big exchange, a left uppercut drops Van Roosmalen just like it dropped the Doctor earlier tonight. Andy the Machine Risky has done it! Coming in ranked number 4, he walks away from Glory 12 New York as the Glory Lightweight Tournament Champion.
So Ramdeen, it was Joe Schilling beating Artem Levin, then we saw Rico Verhoeven back in October, and then Andy Risky on Saturday night. It's been a bit of a year of the upset in Glory, and moving over into the Spike TV platform here, you want to be kind of telling these stories here, and hopefully the audience is there here for Glory to really make something.
Exactly, but it's Spike's responsibility to make sure the viewers know that they have the best fighters in the world, like Giorgio Petrosian and Robin van Roosmalen, and to see Andy Risky come out and take these guys out, you need to be able to create new stars so the fans can get on board.
Coming up on 3 rounds is going to be yourself and Robin Black. What is on the menu for today?
We are looking ahead to UFC Fight Night 33, which goes down in Australia, and we'll tell you which former champion could retire if he loses.
Ooh, the burning questions that John Ramdeen and Robin Black are going to answer are on the other side as we continue on Fight News Now. Welcome back to Fight News Now. It's John Pollock here with you, and now we bring in John Ramdeen and Robin Black, 2 gentlemen that were representing well this past weekend in Toronto and hanging out with some mixed martial arts luminaries in Toronto.
Yeah, it was very exciting. Got the chance to hang out with Damian Maia, Firas Zahabi, Jon Jones, and you were spending some time with Nick the Tooth.
Yeah, I took Nick the Tooth out for some Jack Daniels last night. It was really fun, actually.
Lose any more?
No, he's still got the 8 in his head, I think.
Coming up on December 7th, UFC Fight Night 33 goes down at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre in Australia. The main event, 2 heavyweights collide as Bigfoot Silva taking on Mark Hunt. But we got to focus on the co-feature, James Te Huna taking on Mauricio Shogun Rua. And Rua has seen better days. You and I were talking about this. Who is older, George St-Pierre or Shogun? And the question is, Shogun is younger than George St-Pierre, 32 years of age, but it looks like this guy is 40 years old. I mean, the type of punishment he's sustained over his career is very, very evident. 3 wins in his past 8 fights. If he doesn't win here against James Te Huna, is it time for the former Pride and UFC champion to hang up the gloves?
Yeah, you know, these old Pride guys, these Pride legends, they all look a little worse for wear. They've, you know, a guy like Rua has taken a lot of miles in his fight career. We're never the guys to say these guys should retire. That's not our place. It's not the place of a fan. It's not the place of Dana White. It's not the place of the media to say this guy needs to retire. But you can sure look at it and express your opinion. And, you know, at this stage of his career, in his last 6 fights, he's got 2 wins. He was able to knock out Forrest Griffin, and this is over the last 3 years. He was able to knock out Forrest Griffin, and he took a tough win away from Brandon Vera. And that was, you know, a challenging fight. He did give us those 25 wonderful minutes with Dan Henderson. What an amazing fight that was. You know, he's still got lots of room in him. In that fight with Forrest Griffin, I sat and watched it with Chuck Liddell. It was really exciting to be able to watch a fight with Chuck. And Chuck says he's got more power than almost anybody at 205. But how many miles do you want to take on your body? You know, his brother Ninja Rua has taken a lot of abuse in his time too. I don't think he fights anymore. But really, this is up to him. This is a guy who's a legend. He's earned the right to fight as long as he wants to fight. And we hope he goes out and has a great performance, turns it around, and gets a new start.
But you'd have to imagine that the UFC would step in and say, look, enough is enough. You can no longer compete with the best fighters in the world. And maybe it's premature. Maybe he goes out there and absolutely dominates James Te Huna. But we know the type of Shogun we see when he steps inside of the cage or the ring. This is a guy that loves to move forward. He loves to throw down. And sometimes it's not always the best choice for Shogun. And I know that James Te Huna is going to be a guy that's going to come forward looking to knock out Shogun because, of course, he wants that on his resume.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Only Jon Jones has ever knocked out Shogun. You know, think about it. You got that one opportunity. You got a legend standing in front of you. You're James Te Huna. This is the fight that can make your career. So when you're at this stage like Shogun's at, guys come out there gunning for you. You hope for his sake he goes out and has a vintage performance, changes some things up. You know, and that's not even to talk about reconstructive knee surgery he's faced and all this kind of stuff. You hope this legend goes out there and starts fresh. But it is a tough fight against a tough guy in Australia.
I made the comparison between Shogun and George St-Pierre, both guys at the same age, but George St-Pierre tends to embrace the sport aspect of mixed martial arts, whereas Shogun, over his career, more of entertainment. This is a guy that's coming out there to absolutely thrill the audience, and we saw that in that 25-minute war with Dan Henderson. What is more important right now? If you're in the lower end of the scale in terms of rankings, should you be focusing on becoming a champion, slowly climbing your way up that ladder, or have the Sam Stout mentality of go out there, make sure the crowd knows your name, make sure they cheer for you, and thrill everybody and try to get a bonus for Fight of the Night?
Man, this is such an interesting aspect. We treat, as fans, sometimes we're unfair to these great athletes because we're out there, and often George St-Pierre would win these fights where he'd have have a 5-round decision, come out there without a mark on his face, although we know that last fight didn't go that way, but didn't take a lot of damage. And we sit there and we talk, oh, you know, you need to be entertaining, you need to be entertaining. And then you look at a guy like Shogun, who at 32 years old looks 42 and has so much wear and tear. But, you know, then you got a guy like Pat Barry on this card. Pat Barry's coming in here, and he always entertains you. But, you know, he's going to stand in there with Sal Palele, and those two are going to throw bombs at each other. We're all going to love it. We're all going to love it as a fan. But then later we look at these guys when they're all sore and worn out and broken down, and we feel for them. So it's a tricky thing.
We also look at a girl like Julie Kedzie, who is on the lower end of the 135-pound female scale. Should she be focused on the women's bantamweight championship right now? We know that Ronda Rousey's the queen, so to speak, of that division. You have Kat Zingano, you have Miesha Tate, you have Liz Carmouche, you have Alexis Davis. For Julie Kedzie, she's going to need a number of big victories before she's even considered in title contention. Should she focus on that, or should she go out and do what she did in that fight with Gina Carano and absolutely entertain?
She is like a pillar in the 135-pound division in women's for a long time, but she's got 3 losses in a row. So what do? You got to go out there and make people remember you. How do you do that? A bloody, blood and guts stand-up war where you need to be a Pat Barry-style fighter. You need to entertain. You know, I talked to Corey Erdman earlier today, and he said, without a doubt, in boxing, the more exciting fighters get higher ratings. If that metric can be measured in fighting, in the UFC, you know, that will get some people to lean in that direction as well.
You talk about need, well, a couple of guys that need victories, Ryan Bader and Nick Ring. We're kind of on the comeback trail. Ryan Bader, highly touted, coming off the Ultimate Fighter reality show, suffered a loss to Lyoto Machida, and most recently against Glover Teixeira, who we all know is going to be fighting for the 205-pound title sometime in 2014. But for Ryan Bader, what do you need to do? Is it just simply, you know, go back to basics, use your wrestling, focus on getting a victory? Is that the most important thing? Or do we go back to, you know what, people like entertaining fighters. Pat Barry is 8-6 in the UFC. Yeah. The guy still has a gig and people still love him.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing. We're going to keep talking about this because the shift in how people absorb this sport wobbles back and forth from you get 1 loss and everybody hates you to, man, I'll pay to see Pat Barry fight every night. And that discrepancy between how fans consume this sport is ebbing and flowing through time, and this is a perfect card to take a look at that. Some people on this card are there because they're exciting. You put them in Australia, the Australians go crazy, and they love the show.
Nick Ring also in need of a victory, 1 win in his past 3 fights. We know that he used to spend time training at the TriStar facility in Montreal, but is still out west. What does he need to do? He's facing a debuting guy. Again, does it just go down to basics, make sure you get the victory, or do you go out there and try to throw people?
Well, Nick has never been Nick was a winner, and when a winner, a guy who's been winning all his career, loses a couple of decisions, what do you change up? I mean, he's a winner who has never geared himself towards trying to have an epic fight, but to win fights, and that's what he's got to do.
Mr. Pollock, entertainment or sports, what do you look at when you're watching MMA? Do you want to be entertained first, or do you want to see guys climb the ranks?
Well, I think in a perfect world, you try to get a balance of both. I mean, a win is going to keep you employed, but you know, you're one of 400 guys. You obviously want to set yourself apart from the pack, and sometimes that can be very difficult. But thank you very much. Ramdean and Robin, they are back every single Monday night at 7 Eastern here on Fight Network with the expanded 5-round show. Still to come on this week's show, though, we have Priscilla Carapan with The Shift, and this week's viral video are among the highlights coming your way. We are back on Fight News Now, and we want to let you know that this Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, you can tune in live for Infusion Kickboxing here on Fight Network from London, England, that you'll want to check out. Meanwhile, I am going to check out right now as we welcome in Priscilla Carapan for this week's edition of The Shift.
Josh Brolin returned to the big screen playing a man who is consumed by revenge after being incarcerated for 20 years in solitary confinement. Spike Lee gives us his interpretation of Chan-wook Park's 2003 film, Old Boy. But in this version, Lee references the Japanese graphic novel more than the original South Korean cult hit.
I will get out. And whoever you are, I will find you.
The original movie was a real favorite of mine. people forget that the original source of Old Boy is a Japanese illustrated novel.
One day, he wakes up in a motel room that is a prison cell.
Hello? Can anybody hear me on the outside?
He has no idea why he has been put there, who put him there, and spends the next 20 years of his life there.
What kind of research do you do, and what's being in prison like? Let's spend 3 days in solitary confinement. You know you're getting out, so you'll never be able to have that feeling to not know when you're getting out.
Would it destroy you, or would it alter you into someone different?
Josh, that's a place someone was locked away for a long time and then they're thrust out.
There's such an element of mystery to it. Very nebulous and very strange.
Hello?
Hello, Joseph. Answer these questions. Who am I? And why did I imprison you for 20 years?
The stranger tells Joe we must accept the consequences of every deed throughout our lifetime.
Old Boy is the ultimate version of someone having to deal with their actions.
It's a roller coaster of a film that was hard to compare to any other film.
Joe Doucette reverted back to those animal instincts in all of us.
You ready?
Josh Brolin went there.
My man!
It's an experience, and that's what I want going to the movies. I want to be moved.
I've never seen this before, like the actors actually getting hit.
Anything goes. It's just wide open. It's the most difficult thing I've ever done.
Hey, Joe!
I want people to feel so punched in the gut, their jaws drop.
Never stop to ask the most fundamental question of all. Why did I let you go?
That's it for The Shift this week. Back over to you, John.
Thanks as always, Priscilla. And as time winds down, it's the big viral video that each and every week makes you laugh, cry, and sometimes look on in horror. Which emotion will it elicit this week? Well, let's find out. That man might have a lawsuit on his hands. And that brings Fight News Now to a close. A big thank you to our guests Jon Jones, Firas Zahabi, as well as Johnny Hendricks and Damian Maia. Be sure to catch the MMA Report this week as I welcome on TUF finalists Juliana Pena and David Grant to the show. 5 Rounds is coming at you Monday at 7 Eastern. On behalf of John Ramdeen, Robin Black, Priscilla Carapan, and our entire Fight Network crew, my name is John Pollock, and enjoy the fights this coming weekend.